Hey, wrapping up our International Women's Month, I have got two of the most amazing women from our coaching world to give you some final how-tos. One is Deborah Evans, who's just an incredible woman. She was at the top of the REMAX Australia ladder for essentially the entirety of her career from when I joined the industry. And the second is Amber Werchon. Now, both of these two amazing women, when I was a real estate agent, when I joined, I looked up to these women as amazing examples of success, how to be amazing. And it has been my honor in the subsequent years to be able to have them sitting in our audience as learning and as students, up on the stage as teachers, sharing what it is that made them great. And now we bring it to you. Amber Werchon and Deborah Evans, the final chapter in our International Women's Day that became International Women's Month. Here it is with two of the best you will ever see, male or female, in the Australian real estate industry. Check this out. You're going to love it. You want the normal real estate training you've been told a million times? Make cold calls, knock on doors. Best be switching off now, because in this podcast we go out of the box using unknown tactics, primarily that the real estate industry's never heard of, in order to get you called in more often, convert those listings and get more success without the painful cold calling. Listen up, we're in for a ride. This is Real Estate Renegades. Oh yeah, before we get into the episode, I'm about to right now throw to the ladies. But before we get to that, agentprospecting.com.au. As always, this podcast is completely free to you because of sponsors. Sponsor for this episode, agentprospecting.com.au. They're going to handle doing your prospecting for you. So if you're sick of cold calls, getting punched in the face, getting all of those things, generating leads to get appraisals, if you haven't gone yet through the learning curve yourself, the really hundreds of hours of learning how to do Facebook lead generation activities, why not just outsource that for less than a quarter of the cost of what it would take for a PA to do it for you? 1/4 of a PA's wage. Your entire prospecting activities to the tune of 20 to 25 appraisals per month will be done for you by our team. Like I can't think of a full-time sales assistant or sales associate or sales cadet or whatever the various people that I've hired when I was a salesperson and a principal licensee. I can't think of one full-time staff member that's ever generated the amount of appraisal face-to-face appointments that this service does at a fraction of that. So agentprospecting.com.au to take cold calls and lead generation in general off your plate of responsibility and put it onto ours. And believe me, our team will be the best employees part-time you have ever had. So agentprospecting.com.au for an informal chat with me or with Naomi. It'll book in a time for you to have a yarn with one of our team. It'll either be me or Naomi, and sometimes both. Or we'll have a yarn about how you can outsource your prospecting at agentprospecting.com.au. All right, now I throw to the ladies for Amber Werchon and Deborah Evans masterclass as part of the Real Estate Renegades podcast. Enjoy.
Hi, darling. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We, Amber and I and Glenn were chatting down the back of the room before, and we sort of said, we just love having her here. You know, apart from her incredible knowledge that she's got to share with you guys today, we just love having Amber around because her energy is just incredible. So thank you. Thanks for having me. We're going to try and throw it over to the floor potentially at the end. So if you do have any questions, just hold them for now and we'll come back. We'll try and come back to you if we've got some time. The first thing I wanted to sort of talk to you is, for those that don't know a lot about your history, so potentially those that have come from eastern states, just give us a quick rundown of where you were, so starting as a receptionist into where you are today.
That's a short answer?
Well, okay, no, it's not a short answer.
All right,
so maybe let's start at the beginning. Let's go to the beginning part.
I'll just try and go really fast.
Okay, give me the beginning part.
So I basically started in the industry when I was 17, straight out of school, got a good OP, so I had the principal on the phone wondering why I chose to not go to uni, but I had this passion for real estate from a young age. A bit like Kylie, actually, when she was talking about doing that. On her weekends and for fun, I'd be reading the Property Week, it was called back then. And I'd actually bought my first investment property when I was 16. So wow. I had that property bug. So it was just natural that then when I left school, I would go into real estate, found a place to start as receptionist, and made it pretty clear to that principal that I then wanted to be in sales as fast as possible. He said, well, you do have to turn 18 first. And I go, okay, fair enough. I'll wait then. It's like holding, the horses back at the races. But anyway, so I waited till I turned 18. And back then, offices were male orientated and older generation. There was no one young selling in the office at all, male or female. And everyone had a desk back then, so I had to actually wait for someone to leave the business before it was my turn.
Wow.
And that was really interesting and very different to today, because most people can get a start today because you don't need a desk necessarily, but back then you had to wait to get a big desk, which we didn't really need anyway. So I got that spot and just made sure that no one else was going to get it, basically. And then, when I started selling, I hit the ground running pretty fast because I was able to be on reception and see what to do and what not to do, and just knew to do the right thing. It was a fast journey, but exciting, with lots of roller coasters along the way.
Beautiful. And a lot of the principles that you applied back then, you still apply to the business today. You've tweaked them, obviously, and made them a bit more into today's world. One of the things that you talk about often is don't be a secret agent. Explain that principle to the crowd today about what that means to Amber Werchon and how you apply that to your agents today. So Amber's not listing and selling anymore, she's just a principal, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. But how do you drive your team? What are the sort of things that you've taken from your career and now applied to them?
So the don't be a secret agent, get out there thing was just the first thing that I put on my desk, basically, because we all had a desk. So I stuck it on the back wall and made sure I looked at it all day. And mainly because what I saw from observing, being in admin is a massive advantage in a lot of ways. People don't really appreciate that the observation that you get from being in an office without actually doing it yourself, is phenomenal in terms of knowledge. So I was able to see, even at 17 years of age, that the people who stayed in the office working on the computers all day were the ones who didn't do the deals. So I just made sure that I didn't use a computer, and believe it or not, even being Gen Y, for the first 5 years or something, I basically didn't use a computer.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it was one extreme to the other, but that's how much I felt that technology was a distraction.
Yeah. So instead of being on the computer, what were you doing? So what were some of the things that you hit the ground running doing?
Just basically getting out there, whether it's door knocking or chatting to people, or on the phones, because I always felt that talk time, I used to call 8 till 8 talk time, was the dollar productive time. And if you weren't talking to someone, that's why I'm probably starting to lose my voice by now, because there's been a lot of talking over a lot of years. You use that time to talk, and if you're sitting there writing an email during those hours, I think that time should happen after hours.
Sure. So do you think that one of what would be the biggest takeaway that you could give to a new real estate agent, and even just a real estate agent that may just have reached a level in their career where they're stagnant, so they're just sitting there and trying to break into that next level? What would be the biggest piece of prospecting? I know you have a real difference between prospecting and marketing, like you believe there's a big difference between
Definitely.
that sort of thing. So what do you find? Obviously you think it's prospecting in the beginning of stages of your career, and then it's marketing towards once you're established. So explain, in that prospecting section of a real estate agent's career, what would be or a few of the biggest things? 'Cause there's never any one thing that's going to give you 1,000 listings, but what would it be for you, do you think?
I don't think it's as much of what you do, but the volume that you do it.
Right.
And I think there is a lot of procrastination in the industry, and a lot of people that, sort of try and overanalyze, I'm planning even. I'm a planner by nature, but prospecting just needs to be about the numbers. If you talk to enough people, the numbers just happen. And I never used to record my numbers because I knew that I was just busy. But then when we started getting people on the team, and I started to see that some of them would do better than others, and why, then I started to look at what I did. And even being a principal, there are times where I can email the team at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and say, I've just made 50 calls today, how many have you done?
Yep.
So even as a principal, I'm still doing meetings, I'm still making calls, just for different reasons and on a different level.
Yeah, sure. So you think the evolution from prospecting to marketing, do you think there's a big step there, or do you think it's just the way that you do it? So the way that you do your prospecting, so you change as you move through, as you evolve as a real estate agent?
Yeah, so just to keep it basic, your prospecting initially when you start is the calls and door knocks, etc. And then I don't believe there's a lot to do marketing-wise until you've actually got sales. So then you move to marketing your success, marketing the properties that you've got listed, marketing yourself, etc. And then as you progress and you've got enough pipeline sellers, your prospecting becomes your database.
Sure. And I know that you...
That coupled with the profile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're a big advocate also of making sure that your agents promote their successes. So instead of just doing, I'm a professional, ethical real estate agent, you actually, you encourage them to make sure that they promote their successes. What's the thinking behind that? So where has that sort of come from you? Is that experience or?
Well, it's different if it's an on-site auction and all the neighbours have seen, the wonderful result that you've done. But on a normal private treaty, it's a secret sale unless you promote it. So it comes back to the secret, thing.
The secret agent thing.
Yeah. Don't be a secret agent. So tell everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And branding, how important are you seeing branding? Have you seen that evolve from your early days in real estate versus to where we are now? Personal branding of a real estate agent, has that changed out there in the marketplace that you're experiencing?
No, I think it's just as important, probably the pressure is to be and do it even more professional than ever.
Yeah, okay. And look, we've got a few principals in the room today as well, and one of the questions, I did put it out there and ask a few of the girls what sort of questions they want, and Kelly Qualtrough came back to me with a few questions, and there's a few other principals in the room as well. And one of the reoccurring things that they've asked me is to ask you, as a principal, what do you feel your responsibility is to your agents?
It's a good question. I constantly feel that it's my position to provide value, and that value is in terms of training, tools, marketing, profiling, premises, support, mentorship, etc. It's everything. So I think that really, in an ideal world, I just want my agents to be able to think all I need to do is the business.
Sure. And did that sort of, was that pressure of getting more and more agents what led you to move from being a selling agent to a principal? How did that sort of look in your world? Like, did you just sort of wake up one day and go, oh God, I can't sell anymore, I need to be a principal? Was it, and this is probably a stupid question to ask you, was it a planned thing? Because
yes, it's a plan.
It's a planner. You're a planner. So tell us, just give us, because I know we've got a lot of new principals, we've got a lot of people that have been principals for a while as well. When did you find you needed to make that switch?
So to take a step back to the journey, I only got to when I was an agent. So whilst I was that was at a Ray White office, whilst I was at Ray White, I actually built a team of 20 people underneath me as an independent contractor there. And so I had agents and admin and marketing people, everyone, PA, etc. And during that time, I was there for 8 years, I was delegating the sellers that I could, and the sellers who said it must be you, or it was an auction, which is a little bit of a different beast. I would sort of look after those and appoint someone else in the team to look after the others. But when we sort of outgrew our office and decided to go independent, was when I just made the decision overnight.
Yeah. Okay.
As in, when we move, that's it.
Yeah. It's going to be you'll stop selling.
Yeah.
Do you regret that?
There's the odd.
Yeah.
I probably was a little bit too, I am someone that is black and white.
Yep.
So I remember saying no to a $4 million listing that later I went, am I crazy?
Because they wanted to list it with you, but you
yeah,
said
and I
no
sent someone else.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, well, no, we're not going to give our $4 million listing to someone that hasn't actually
We
been
wanted to
here
give
very
it to
long.
Amber.
So, I sort of looked back at that and went, that maybe wasn't the best call. So then I thought, well, no, I still got to stand by I'm not going to sell thing, and I try to make sure my name's not on any ads, and try and delegate everything. And if something happens that I do need to do it, I always have someone in the background.
Yeah, fantastic. So how many sales staff have you got at the moment?
About 28.
About 28.
Yeah.
And how many offices?
And that's growing all the time.
That's growing all the time.
It's great because the team is so wonderful that the existing team are referring all these people that I can't really keep up, to be honest.
Sure.
And we're at the point where, I have to have a strategy for not bringing in as many people rather than how to bring them in. Yeah.
So, and this is a question that you and I haven't spoken about previously, but what do you look for? So if you've got a group of 5 agents or 5 people that want to come and join Amber Werchon, what do you look for?
They've got to be a good person.
Okay.
First and foremost, because I'm at that point now where it's been 16 years and I don't want to work with someone that's not.
Fair enough.
So, they've got to be a good person, and there's got to be likability, and they've got to have a commitment to service.
Okay, so they would be the 3 key things?
It doesn't matter if they don't want to
Door
make a lot of
or-
money or they don't want to do that or whatever. All that part doesn't bother me as long as they look after who they've got. And they represent the brand well.
Yeah, and they represent the brand well.
Yeah.
So if you have an underperforming agent, do you bring them in for more mentoring?
How do you define underperforming?
Good question. How do I define? Probably not reaching the goal that they've set.
But is that a financial goal or is that another goal?
Well, let's go with.
Well, sorry.
Look at this, huh? Jesus.
I'm supposed to be the one answering, not asking the questions.
So how do?
This is not pre-planned, obviously.
If I was working for you and I'd set myself some goals, financial goals, or even personal goals, and I wasn't reaching it, are you expecting me to come and talk to you about it, or are you monitoring that and you're going to not drag me in because that's a negative connotation, but what do you do with that?
I guess I have a level of awareness,
Sure.
we'll call it that. So there's no fixed, once a month, I used to have this, by the way, once a month I would sit down and then do this and that, and I've worked out that not one size shoe fits all.
Sure.
Not everyone runs the same way, not everyone even responds to the same things, not everyone even likes a one-on-one.
Yep.
So why should I waste my time when someone just dreads it?
Yeah.
So instead, I think it's more about getting to know each and every one of the people within your team, working out what they want to achieve and just trying to see how they can better achieve it.
Yeah, so just sort of plugging in where they need their weaknesses, support.
I'll just say, I've noticed this, have you thought about this?
Yeah.
Or, we're always running training and we're always doing other things anyway. And we've got teams, so I don't, I'm not the only one sort of looking after all those people.
Sure.
There are people within teams, and then I'll chat to the, lead agent or the team leader about the other people in their team.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So another question that sort of came up as well from a couple of our attendees was, you are, and I don't like to say driven, but you are very, you're passionate, you are, I suppose you're driven, but for want of a better word.
Yeah.
What happens when Amber Werchon loses her mojo? What does she do? What does she do to realign herself? Because we all fall off the alignment at times, whether that's pressure, whether that's busyness, whatever that may be, illness or whatever. How does Amber Werchon sort of bring herself back into that line to continue?
I don't really lose my mojo, and that's
No,
going to sound really terrible.
No, that's
because
fair
I'm
enough.
not an arrogant person,
Sure.
and I hope my team doesn't think I am either. But I have a confidence about me that doesn't quail. to be
Doesn't work.
honest.
So it's a steady horse the whole way along. Yeah, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. So I think
Weird, probably, but
Well, I think it's probably it's probably if as human beings we can all operate in that sort of that spectrum of and not sort of deviating too much from that, then that's exactly what happens. You become.
I think it's more as you've been like 16 years in one industry.
Sure.
I'd like to think I kind of know a bit about what I'm doing by now.
Yeah.
So I think confidence comes with experience and knowledge and, results and, lots of other things. So, it might be a different story if I was a newbie.
Yep.
But, yeah.
So a newbie into the industry, what is the biggest piece of advice that you'd give them?
I think we'll work hard. Sounds like a bit of a cliche, but the different, you know what? No, I'd probably change that and say to monitor your numbers, because I think people will, there's so many distractions of I'll chat to someone at the office and I'll, answer all these emails and I'll do all this and you reach the end of the day, and then when you actually review the day and you look at what you've achieved, what have you really achieved? So I'd say probably reviewing every single day and checking in on what you've achieved.
Beautiful. So because
then you don't lose time. Like,
absolutely.
people lose months sometimes,
Yeah.
and I say, "What have you been doing all this time?"
Yeah.
And they go, "I've been doing this," and I'm like, "For months."
Yeah.
Like, you need to have been doing more than that for that
Absolutely.
time. So, I try to encourage them to, monitor daily, self-accountability, planning and monitoring.
And talking to people.
I do it every day. I still look back and go, how could this day have been better?
Absolutely. Self-reflection, I think,
Yeah.
is it? And that was
And
going
then
to be my next
if I don't
question.
like it, I'll change it.
Yeah, that was going to
Yeah.
be my next question. How often are you still self-reflecting? Because I know
Oh,
it's something that you
all
did
the
in your
time.
early days.
Yeah.
So you look back over the day, how I could have done this better? Like,
Yes.
are you harsh
What else
on
I could
yourself?
have given to someone else
Sure.
to do?
Yeah. How could I have done this better? How could I have given? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the way that you sort of operate in your business now. Do you
That's an organic growth, I think.
organic
then.
growth? Yeah. So do you impart that on your staff as well? Do you? I mean, I know you
It's up
wouldn't
to them.
expect to.
It's up to them to do
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
It's not something that I say you have to do this day.
Sure.
But in saying that, they've got an ideal week that I recommend, and it has, review the day and plan the day, at the end of each day. So
Yeah.
I still do it today.
Yeah. So 28 staff, very.
There's 40 something in total.
40
yeah,
something. So 28 sales staff, which is a
the rest
big
is like property management, money, admin, etc. Yeah.
So how have you kept? Because I know your staff turnover rate is very, very low. Like your
We're
staff.
very lucky.
Very, very lucky. Very, very low. But in my opinion, that comes from the top. How, in your opinion, why do you think that is? And you're allowed to talk about Amber here too.
I think as time's gotten on, it's interesting. I used to define my success by how much I sold. So things have changed a lot.
I think we're told to do that. I think that's
That's right. And at 18 years of age, with not much money, it was. And I think as time evolves and I've grown older and I've had a couple of kids and got married and the whole thing, I think you just reevaluate your priorities, and that probably helps me be a better leader, I believe.
Yeah, and I know you have a pretty structured day.
Still,
you have a very, very
I fit a
structured
baby
day.
in there,
That's
so
right.
it's
So
pretty
you
important.
fit the baby in there and
Yeah.
everything like that. Do you think that's been one of the biggest successes in being able to be a business owner, a real estate agent, a mum of young children, and a wife as well?
Definitely.
Has a structured day. And
I'm obsessed with it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I'm obsessed with routine.
How obsessed
My
with
kids
routine?
have to be obsessed with routine. My husband hates it. So
So
he's like the one, I'll just throw everything out for you, to keep it all real, and that's fine, but I still try and keep my plans.
So you stick with the routine. So you
Yeah.
believe that routine is one of the biggest things
Absolutely.
that you can, And I think, Jodie, you would probably agree with that too, Dale, wouldn't you? That routine is probably a big thing, especially when you've got kids as well, because
It's even more important
You're
then.
more important. And like Jode's, are the kids on board? Because I think that's a really powerful thing.
Oh, my son thought my full name was Amber Werchon Property before he knew it was Amber McHugh or Amber Werchon. So yeah.
So
I'd say
they grow
yes.
up with each other. I've got a 20-year-old, and the poor kid is like these real estate his entire life. So I understand that as well.
But they're still young, so I don't know if they really understand yet.
They'll get there.
Yeah.
They'll know what
right.
they'll know what a listing is a sale. They'll know what a listing presentation
when you're,
is pretty
I
quick.
think when my son was 3, he started to say, "Mummy, let's do a deal." And I'm like, all right, they're going to have good dialogue, these boys.
Yeah, that's good. That's some good dialogue.
All that time in the womb, hearing all the calls,
Yeah, that's
and all that
exactly
time,
right.
at home.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the future looking like? You're obviously in a place right now where you've always been very comfortable where you are. I don't think you've ever, it's not within your personality that you would be somewhere in an environment where you're not comfortable. What's the future looking like? Where are you? Because you're still
More
only
of
young.
the same,
You're
really.
still only
More
young,
of the
right?
same. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm loving it just as much as ever.
Yeah.
There's new challenges and new passions and new highs today, and I think we're also blessed to be in this industry because it just offers so much and so much diversity. I love it.
Yeah. And do you think? How do you see the landscape changing within the next 10 years? Do you see?
I have
think it'll
no
be
fears of anything. I have no fears of the private sales and the online stuff and,
No, and
anything.
the-
I
yeah.
just believe if you truly deliver value, you'll have nothing to fear.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So, Amber Werchon,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Dale. We really appreciate it.
thank
We love
you.
having you
Thank you.
on our stage.
Thanks, Deborah. Thank you so much. All right, no problem. Good?
Hi everybody. Well, it's a hard act to follow. I mean, James Tostovan, Matt Steinwade's been my heroes forever, and you know, watching them at ARIC every year is truly inspirational. So it's very humbling to be here today. Just a little bit about me. You know, my biggest goal here today is to allow you to dream. Just have a dream about what your life could be like, what your business could be like. If you just sit back and think about, you know, what would be your ideal life and your ideal year. Goals that are not written down are just wishes. I write everything down. However, it wasn't always like that. Years ago, when I very first started, I would just copy other people's goals. I'd sit in a room at a conference and they'd say, write down your goals, and I just couldn't imagine what I wanted. I had no idea. So people would write down different goals or talk about, you know, going to Machu Picchu, and I thought, what the hell is Machu Picchu? Like, I had no idea. You know, a villa in Tuscany, oh, that sounds great. Writing $1 million a year sounds great. Why not just write it down? So I used to write all these little things down, having no idea that I would ever be able to achieve them. So my first rule is write it down. A little bit about me. I'm a mum and a grandmum now. I have 4 children. And I first went into real estate when my youngest was 2 and had 4 boys. We were living in New Zealand. My husband was away for 2 weeks every month, and he was over in Hong Kong with his business, and I was at home with the 4 kids. And I really thought my life was worth more than cleaning the toilet. I just would clean the house all day. The kids would come home from school and totally destroy everything I did. And, you know, I just needed something outside of the house, and I had no idea what that was. So I decided that I'd go and buy some investment properties. Went and had a look around Auckland, looked at a few properties, and bought 2 actually. And while I was doing that, I thought this could be a really good career. I could do better than this guy that was showing me these properties. So I went to the office, and there it is there in Auckland, and started my real estate career. They said, well, there's a desk, there's a phone, off you go. I had no idea what I was doing. So they said, oh, well, you didn't do a letterbox drop. So the boys, I'd put the boys in the car, I'd put them down one end of the street, and we'd drop all this stuff in letterboxes and pick them up at the other end, and got a couple of listings. In the first 4 months I was in real estate, I didn't sell anything and really thought I was a bit of a failure. However, the last 6 months or 8 months that I was in this office, I ended up being in the top 2% in the country. I'll never forget one day I sold 4 properties, and you know, like, I'd only been in real estate 6 months, and Glenn was in Hong Kong, and I had the 4 kids at home, and I think my eldest at that stage was like 10, and I would be negotiating 4 contracts. Now you can imagine what that's like. There's 4 sellers, 4 buyers, so there's 8 people that I'm running around and then dropping in home, making sure the kids were okay, and I'd race out again, keep negotiating, come back home. Anyway, I thought, well, that'll never happen again. But I just kept going. Then we came back to Australia, and I was out of the business for 2 years, but every time I walked past a real estate office, I just wanted to get back into it. And having those 2 years off was really a good thing, because during that time, I could really think about what would I do differently if I had my time again. So I opened my office. I was in the business for 6 months, in REMAX for 6 months, and then I decided that I really wanted to open an office. First thing I did was go to the States, and I met up with Bob Wolf over there. I had 2 days with him, which was phenomenal. He also did a 2-day class at the REMAX conference that I went to. And oh gosh, after doing that, I mean, I was just really pumped. I then came back and went to ARIC. I remember James talking that day, and it was just, it just blew me away. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my career. I'm going to open an office. So within 3 years of opening that office, I became the #1 agent in REMAX in Australia. I often say I did it because I had to. My fees were so high because I opened that office from scratch. There wasn't any salespeople in there. It was myself, a receptionist, and then I started, obviously attracting a few agents, and I just worked all the time. I worked 7 days a week. Just kept working. So this is just a little bit of, I think it's all about keeping track of what you're doing. I keep track of everything now. Now, I didn't do this from the very start, but, going to ARIC, learning from some of the top people, I just started tracking everything I did. So I have this for every year of my career. It comes in really handy, actually, when you're talking to someone and you're thinking, oh, God, I can't remember what house I sold you. So now I look up, it's very easy to, just look up who you sold a property to and etc. So I just keep track. And it's really amazing what you wish for, you will receive. I'll never forget the first time I said, well, I think 40 sounds a good number. Let's list 40 properties in a year. And lo and behold, I listed 40 properties. Then, I've just gone from there. Every year I have a number that I'm working towards, either a number of listings or a dollar figure. But if you don't have that number, you've really got nothing to work towards. And it's amazing what happens when you write it down. And I've started doing that, over the years with agents in our office, and they come to me at the end of the year thinking, that is amazing. I put that number down and lo and behold, I've achieved it. So keep track. Marketing myself as a product. That was a really difficult thing. It really was something that did not come naturally to me. I felt very self-conscious, but I actually, almost make it an out-of-body experience. It's not about ego, it's just business. So marketing myself as a product was something I really had to learn. You have to have a profile, you have to be known in your area. If people don't know you in your area, you're never going to get called in for listings. So this is the sort of marketing I do. I've created my own brand. I am a REMAX agent. However, it's not about that. I want people ringing me and my team. So this is the sort of thing that, the sort of brochures that I'll use, invite me into your home, just sold, just listed. It's really simple, very, very simple. So letterbox drop every 2 weeks every week for 2 months, and then every 2 weeks. I get asked this all the time: how will I become a household name? Well, just your product. Get yourself in letterboxes, and then people will know you. Some of my just listeds, just solds, very simple. I have been selling in this Scumdale Chandler area for really now the last 18 years, and it's been fantastic actually. Everybody in that area knows me. There's still other salespeople that come in, and they usually come and they go. But I've just been really consistent in keeping Shout it out loud. It's really important that everybody knows when you've had success. You know, it's just selling a property, but make sure everybody knows about it. Very simple. There we go, just listed, just sold, just out there all the time. I have my own personal website as well. We have the office website, you know, there's the company website, the office website, but also my own personal website. And obviously, you know, emailing every week, your open homes, etc. is really important. I like to direct our buyers to our own website. Obviously, that keeps them more attracted to our brand as well, or my brand. It's my brand, but it's my team. So I have two buyer's agents in my team and a personal assistant that assists with all the marketing. I mean, I'm not sitting at a computer doing all of this stuff. My assistant is. She's sending out all the just listeds, just solds, have things happen automatically, because obviously you don't want anything that's going to take you away from your business. Print media. I love courier mail, I love local advertising. You've just got to be in front of people all the time. So all my properties get marketed. Okay, this is going on forever. Brochures. And do they trust you? I mean, everything that I send out, I really want people to feel that I can be trusted. I mean, I will never tell a lie. I'll tell them as it is. But I think, people really want to know that what you're telling them is real. When they trust you, they will market their property. They will sell as well. So trust is very, very important. But, you know, you can't just walk in. Trust is something that walk into a living room and expect them to know everything that you know. You really have to sit down and build that relationship. And that's just going to happen with, you know, how you present yourself to them and what you're saying. Property brochures, my signboards. I love vendor paid marketing. My belief is the quickest way to go broke in real estate is to pay for marketing yourself. I love selling marketing programs. I don't believe that a seller is going to achieve the best possible price without marketing their product. Because how do you know that everybody out there hasn't seen that property? There is passive buyers, obviously, people that really aren't just sitting in front of a computer screen looking at every property that's coming on the market. So print media for me is very, very important. Sending thank you cards. I had an experience actually with Julie Ryan. I always put the Julie Ryan story. Just a year or two ago, I was at on a panel with Jason Andrews and Amber Werchon. And Julie was adjudicating this panel, and she said that in her teaching career, and she taught me at the REIQ 18 years ago, she said at the REIQ she only ever received 2 thank you cards. One was from Amber Werchon and one was from myself. And I thought, that's an amazing story in itself. I send thank you cards all the time. People want to know that you care about them. And I think if, you know, that's building up the trust, isn't it? So thank you cards. Happy birthday. I put that down because I was talking to a gentleman once in my farm area, and he said, "Oh, Deb, don't ring me again, but I'm going to sell when I'm 70. And I said, "Oh, that's fabulous. Okay, when are you 70? And I wrote it in my diary. And it came up on the screen, you know, when his birthday was. I sent him a birthday card. The following week, he rang me and I got the listing. It's really not that hard. It's just writing down what people tell you. I also had an instance where I did an appraisal on a property, and this guy said to me, it was about $500,000 at the time, and he said, when this hits $1 million, when you've got a buyer that will pay $1 million for this property, come and see me and I'll sell. Well, guess what? That property hit $1 million. I rang him and I said, I've got a buyer for your property. It's now $1 million. You said you'd sell land. He said, I have told that to at least 20 agents. Nobody has ever rung me. I rang. There was no negotiation. It was just, there's the contract. It's all signed up. It was sold straight away. So it's not really rocket science. It's just keeping notes, following up. Very simple. So that birthday card made me about $35,000, I think. This is how I keep track of my stock. I found that, as I said, it's just about writing it down. You know, as you start developing a few listings, like I don't care if you've only got 4 listings, have it on a sheet. And I started analysing my stock, and I have to make a game of it because, you know, it sort of gets a little boring. You've got all these properties. It's how can I get them into sold? So this is my stock sheet. When I list a property, when I list it, I just write it on the sheet. Or if it's something that's coming up on the market, you know, in the next 2 weeks, or, you know, people say to you, if you've got a buyer for my property, just bring them around. I don't want to list it, but bring them around. I'll put it on the sheet. So this is my stock sheet. The purple section at the top are my auctions. So my little game that I play with myself, as I get them listed, I then endeavour to get them into the auction section. So I'll have auctions booked with my auctioneer, Jason, have a date booked, and then I just work out on how I'm going to go fill those auction dates. Then it goes from there down to the bottom to sold. And I keep track of, you know, everything's just on one sheet. So if a buyer rings up and says, this is what I'm looking for, we've got it all on the sheet. The other little game I play with myself is, you'll see up there that I've got a couple of columns, the vendor price, the benchmark, and the education level. The biggest problem I see is, sure, the listing agent is always the one that gets excited about the property, and we can tend to pitch it too high. So this is there to protect me from really pitching it too high. Vendor price is, obviously, the vendors usually are wanting a lot more than what their properties are in the marketplace. I mean, obviously, we're endeavouring to get that price. And then the education level. The education level is really the price that, you know, if I go and give feedback at a level that is too high, and are those people prepared to put it on paper? Usually not. That's fine if they put it on paper. But if the education level is too high, it actually will prevent a sale happening because we're just going in too high. We're excited. We want the best price. So we're going, you know, in that first couple of weeks that it comes onto the market, if we go back too high, we're never going to get it sold. So I just keep this to keep myself organised, just to know where I'm at. And if those dates aren't booked, why not? I've got to make them, get them signed up, get them booked. Now, no different to an athlete, I believe in coaches. This is my coach, Dr. Fred Gross. Actually, I met him at the first ARIC that I ever went to. And I'd have to say Dr. Fred has really changed my life because in those first 5 years I was a workaholic. I had no life balance. I was just working around the clock. So Fred taught me how to have a life, how to write down my goals and how to have a vision board. As I said earlier, all I really do is think about next year. So some of these are my old vision boards. They're very, very simple. And I've just done my one for 2016, my vision board for 2016. But I just sit down and think about, what do I want to do next year? If I had all the money in the world, if money was not an issue, if I had all the time and time was not an issue, how would I like my life to look? And Glenn said, can you please just talk about your holidays? we really live a magnificent life now. What was holding me back years ago was, what are our excuses? Don't have enough time, don't have enough money. I can't do that. Well, actually, you can. You can do whatever you want to do. You've just got to put it in the diary and it will happen. So years ago, when I was at my Dr. Fred group, everyone was going around the room, you know, writing their goals, and as I said, I would copy everybody else's goals and dreams. Villa in Italy, that sounds nice. Mercedes convertible, oh, that sounds good. I'm not a car person, but it sounds really nice. So a year in England, a holiday home up the Sunshine Coast. I just started writing it down. Then I worked out how I could lock it into my life. But the strangest thing happened. I was out to dinner one Friday night, and a girlfriend said to me, "Does anyone want to buy a villa in Italy?" And I said, "Well, actually, that's on my list." Okay. So I came home from dinner. Glenn wasn't there that night, and he said, "What? You're doing what? You're buying a villa in Italy?" That was Friday night. We went out to dinner. By Monday night, we'd signed off. We bought it. It was a share with a group of friends. But now we go to Italy every year. A holiday home up the Sunshine Coast. I'd never even been to Budrum before, but I thought that'd be a nice place to, you know, because I didn't want to be right on the water. I just wanted to be in the mountains a bit, to go walking, and yeah, let's go and have a look at Budrum. So we went to Budrum and bought a holiday house. A white Christmas. You know, like really, you name it, whatever you want to do, just put it down, because these things have a way of really happening. So, as I said, I really struggled with time management and taking that time off, and felt that I could never be away from the business. So this particular year, I said, okay, I'm going to have a month off. Glenn, can you go and book a month for us? We're going to go to Europe. So this was back in 2006. Glenn sneakily booked 7 weeks. And I nearly died. I thought, oh my God, how am I going to cope? Well, guess what? I came back and the world was still there. Everything was still there. The world didn't fall apart, and I worked normally when I got back. In fact, I was quite energised, and I thought, well, that worked. Let's book another holiday. So 6 months later, we booked another holiday and went to Cambodia and Vietnam. And then we booked another holiday for that Christmas. So now we have 2 months off in December, January, and we have 2 months off in June and July. Then last year, my son got married and he had a 3-month honeymoon, and I went, oh, I'm jealous. I want a 3-month holiday as well. So we just locked it in. So next year, we've already booked our flights and everything. In 10th of May, we're going to Europe for 3 months. Like, you know, if you want to do it, you can do it. You don't have to start big. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. In fact, next year, we get all our flights on points, because everything through the business is on credit card. So everything's booked on points. Next year, we're doing 40 days trekking across Spain on the Camino. And then we're going to have a month in Italy, and then we're flying to Toronto and visiting some friends. Like, there's a reason that we're doing this. We're working hard to really create fantastic memories with our families and our loved ones. Because there's no point in working crazy, doing all of this, and getting to the end of your life and saying, well, all I've done was work. Create some fantastic memories. And that's what we do now. You know, I think of nothing more like, you know, going to Antarctica with Mum and Dad, trekking on the Great Wall of China with our son. We've done something really special with each of our kids every year. You can do that. Just put it in the diary, book it, and then it's locked in. And I can tell you, you will work like crazy before you go. You'll make those phone calls that you've been putting off making because you've got a time limit. It's like an auction, there's a time. There was a time limit for today for me to do this. As Glenn knows, he got it at 9 o'clock last night. But, you know, that's me. I'll leave everything. And I think that's a lot of us. You know, would we really put our tax return in if there wasn't a date that we have to have it by? So create a date, create an urgency, and make your life happen. I felt really guilty actually being away for May and June. I was starting to, you know, towards the end there, because I'd had, you know, December, January off, came back for a couple of months, then I was away May, June. And then I thought, you know what, if I'm on my deathbed, am I going to say, gee, I wish I didn't have that 2 months? We've had a ball, you know, in Iceland and Greenland. We've been to 75 countries now. We're having a great life. So I'd love you to dream, just dream about what it is that you would really love to do. Book it for next year. It's next year, it's not next week, so you haven't got appointments next year. Just put it in the diary and it will happen. Oh, fantastic. That was in Turkey. We went hot air ballooning, you know, creating fantastic memories. There's our boys and our grandson, and we've now got a little granddaughter, which is pretty exciting. But, you know, they grow up quick. Life just goes so quickly. I mean, I can't believe I've been in, you know, 18 years in real estate in Australia, and I can't believe that, you know, my eldest son's now 31. We've got grandkids, you know, like 10 years goes in the blink of an eye. So don't miss out. So the rewards have just been fantastic. We just have so much fun. So you do have to have some work ethic. You know, we've got to put in some effort here too. So work ethic, be early, put in the hours, go the extra mile. It does make a difference. You know, getting to the office early really just sets yourself up for that day. You've got to have a desire. And, you know, I've got the desire now because I get inspired by the holidays or the holiday home or whatever it is. That is my desire. That's my vision. Making a decision to win is the first step. Then prepare for it. Sacrifice, discipline and commitment. Like, I didn't start off year one and then, you know, year two, take 3 months off. But there was a sacrifice, there was a discipline in order for me to get to that level. And persevere. I mean, any of us that have been in real estate long enough have seen people come and go through this industry. And, you know, I've seen people give up before they really get started, and they're just about ready to really make it happen. So just persevere. It will happen. There are no shortcuts. If you want to get to the top, start at the bottom. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. So thank you.
Wow. Well, there you go. I hope you liked the episode. If you like that, then what you need to do is you need to subscribe. You need to get more of this craziness because we got more are coming. I'm never standing still, and we've got so many more guests. We've got so many more strategies, more out-of-the-box thinking. So if you haven't subscribed, literally, you're like throwing away thousands of dollars. Because I tell you, if you haven't subscribed, you don't come back. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find you, I'm going to market to you, and I'm going to charge you for the very stuff that on this podcast we give away for free. So whack that subscribe button on whatever your favourite podcast weapon of destruction is, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.